All right, welcome to the Explainer. You know, millions of people ask this question every single day. Why does some pain feel like it's just stuck? Like it's on a loop that never ends?
And to really get a sense of how big this problem is, check out this number. $635 billion. I mean, that's the estimated cost of chronic pain every single year just in the United States. It's an absolutely staggering figure, and it tells you we're dealing with a massive puzzle that, for so many people, just hasn't been solved. So, what's going on here? Well, to really understand why some pain just won't go away, we've got to change how we think about our bodies. Let's stop seeing it as just, a collection of parts. Instead, picture it like a huge, bustling city. A city with a really, really efficient sanitation system that's supposed to keep everything running perfectly.
Okay, so when things are going right, the body's emergency response and its cleanup crew, they work together perfectly. Let's take a look at how this whole process is supposed to work.
You see, in a healthy system, it's actually a pretty simple step-by-step process. First, something happens. Let's say you sprain your ankle. Right away, the body sends in its emergency response team. That's inflammation, and it floods the area with healing chemicals. Now, this whole response creates a bit of a mess, some cellular trash and fluids, but that's okay, because right on schedule, the sanitation department shows up to drain all that trash away and get things back to normal.
And the sanitation department, it actually has a name. It's our lymphatic system. The best way to think about it is like a fleet of sanitation trucks for our entire body. They're constantly cruising through our tissues, picking up all that inflammatory waste and just keeping everything clean so the real healing can happen.
But what happens when that system breaks down, right? What if those sanitation trucks get stuck in a massive citywide traffic jam? Well, that's where the real trouble starts.
There's this really compelling new theory that suggests the problem isn't the inflammation itself, it's where it gets trapped. The theory is called Interstitial Inflammatory Stasis, or IIS for short. Okay, let's break that down. Interstitial just means it's happening in the spaces between your cells. And stasis? That just means it's stuck. It's not moving. So what we're really talking about here is a biological traffic jam, where all that inflammatory trash gets trapped in our tissues.
So this whole breakdown seems to happen in 3 key stages. And problem number 1 is a doozy. Certain inflammatory chemicals, these little messengers called cytokines, start sending out a really bizarre signal. They basically tell the lymphatic system's sanitation trucks to just stop working. They disable the exact system that's supposed to be clearing them away.
Okay, so at the exact same time, you've got another problem. Other signals are telling the tissue all around the area, the stuff called fascia, to contract, to squeeze tight. This physically pinches the streets, the tiny pathways that all that fluid needs to drain through. It's like the city is squeezing all the roads shut.
And then, to make a bad situation even worse, there's a third problem. The pain signals themselves trigger our fight-or-flight response. And what does that do? It causes our blood vessels to constrict, choking off the fresh blood flow that's needed to help with the cleanup. So just think about this. The cleanup crew is disabled, the streets are squeezed shut, and now the supply lines are cut off. It's a perfect storm.
And here's the crucial part. These 3 breakdowns, they don't just happen once and then everything goes back to normal. Oh no. They actually feed into each other, creating this vicious, self-perpetuating cycle of pain.
This is exactly how the system gets stuck in that loop we talked about. You see, those trapped inflammatory chemicals just keep poking at the pain nerves. The pain signals that creates, they cause even more tissue squeezing and vessel constriction, which, you guessed it, traps even more inflammation. It just keeps going, a vicious cycle where the problem literally fuels itself.
Researchers have a name for this. They call it a feed-forward loop. It's a state where the result of a process, the output, gets fed right back in to become the cause, the input, which just makes the whole thing stronger. So in this case, the pain and the inflammation are creating the perfect conditions for, more pain and inflammation. And that makes this cycle incredibly tough to break.
And listen, this isn't just some wild theory. It's actually backed up by what we're seeing in the real world. For example, studies have found these exact inflammatory chemicals, things like TNF-alpha and IL-6, in super high concentrations right where people have chronic pain. And get this, doctors using ultrasound can literally see the traffic jam. They see the constricted blood vessels and something called venous stasis, which is just a fancy way of saying the fluid is all backed up and stagnant right in those painful spots.
So why does any of this matter? Well, understanding this mechanism could totally change how we think about treating chronic pain. It really shifts the entire goal.
It completely shifts our focus. The old way of thinking was, hey, if there's pain, there must be an ongoing injury, right? The fire is still burning. But this new view suggests something different. It suggests that maybe the fire is out, but all the smoke and debris from the firefight never got cleaned up. So the pain you're feeling isn't from the original injury anymore. It's from the clogged up, messy system that got left behind.
And that, of course, reframes the whole approach to treatment. Instead of just trying to block the pain signals, maybe with medication, the real goal could be to physically decompress the tissue. The new mission becomes clearing out that biological traffic jam, helping the body's own sanitation system to finally get back to work and start moving again.
So that leaves us with a really powerful new question, doesn't it? What if the key to solving this massive chronic pain puzzle isn't some new drug, but is simply about unclogging our body's own drainage system? This whole idea reframes chronic pain not as some kind of permanent damage, but as a really complex traffic jam that's just waiting for the right signals to finally clear the road.